Hey everyone, this is Hubrix. I'm back. I've been getting a lot of requests for rotation videos and a few for some macros. So I'm going to do a macro video first and also go over some of my action bar gimmicks. And then I'll do a rotation video because first I need to have a few macros that work into my rotation, have a pretty big effect on it. So my action bars, a lot of you probably noticed in other videos that I've done or my stream, which you can find at twitch.com/Hubrix. I cycle through different action bars. I have three different action bars that I cycle through on my main action bar. And what it helps me do is it allows me to keybind multiple abilities on the same key, like on the same command. And it's not just shift modifiers, but I can have three different abilities that work on three different abilities that work on a 3 key button press, three different abilities that work on shift 4 key button press. And I didn't come up with this. I got this a long time ago, way back in Wrath of the Lich King. I was unsubscribed for a long time, but I saw some video of an Enhancement Shaman who did this, and I thought it was a really cool idea. Who looked like it was just a random battleground video, and I don't know who the shaman was, but he was switching his action bars around a lot, and it looked like a really cool idea, and it looked like it'd be really helpful to do. So I have my first action bars, mostly my main attacks, and it's all kind of it's mostly my things I need to target something with, just my shocks, my Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Unleash Elements, target Hex, target Purge, etc. And then my next two extra action bars are generally things that I don't need to be targeting something specific to use. They're like my Focus Hex, my Focus Frost Shock, my Focus Purge, also my Healing and Decurse macros for my allies and 3s, a few totems, my Healing Rain, and that's generally the gist of it. And my third one is just extra buttons that are rarely used. I have my Summon Elemental totems. I actually have my Symbiosis Solar Beam just because this third action bar I just recently added this expansion pack, and I didn't have my Solar Beam on anything before, so I just threw it in here, and it's kind of clumsy on a third action bar, but I've kind of gotten used to it, gotten to use it. And the commands to shift the action bars are all on my mouse. Mouse wheel up, mouse wheel down. Mouse wheel up is my main one. Secondary one's mouse wheel down. Third one is just a third button on the bar on my mouse. And I don't know if it took me a while to get used to. It definitely took me a little bit to get used to. I think I gradually broke myself into it, but I started kind of slow. I started with only 2 action bars with the mouse wheel. And it's just sometimes, and I've gotten used to it to the point where I can pretty much do it perfectly. I know that I sometimes used to, especially when I got back into it before the expansion, before Miss, I would be in the wrong action bar when I'm trying to heal myself or something. It would screw me over because I'd be sitting there pressing the heal and it wouldn't go off. But now I've gotten it worked out pretty well. And if you want to use this strategy or this gimmick, it's easy to start slow. It's easy to start with just one action bar, maybe a few buttons, like some totems. It's great to put totems into because totems are things you just drop and you don't need to be anywhere specific. Usually you don't need to be targeting something usually. For some of them. It's just a great place to fit all these freaking abilities that we have, especially all the extra ones that we gained this expansion. And on my 2 bottom action bars, I have simply all my abilities with all the cooldowns I need to watch lined up. And when I'm playing, I just scan across, look for what abilities are available, and use them from there. Go from there. As you can see, we have a lot. We have about 27, I think. 27, maybe no, 26. No. Yeah, about 26 different cooldowns we need to watch, about maybe a few more actually. Or we could possibly, depending on the talent, depending on our talent choices. And that's basically gist of it. Basic gist of it. On the right, I just have some miscellaneous things, my weapon views. That's how I organize my keybinds. As you can see, I have some copies of the same abilities. While those are just skins, those are macros that use the icon of an ability whose cooldown that I just need to watch better, like hexes and shocks. It just lets me see the cooldown a little bit easier while they're on the lower bar, and they're fairly close to all my other attacks and my CCs, and I usually have my ancestral swiftness here. So I'm gonna go into the macros. A lot of them are just basic stuff. There are only a few ones that are pretty complicated. Most of them, some of them are tailored specifically to the way I play. Most of them are generally helpful to anyone, whether you're playing, if you're PvPing, playing battlegrounds or arenas, especially arenas. This is just so I'm gonna go through each one. You can read what the actual text is by pausing the video. I'm gonna go fairly quickly, I think. So this is just the wind shear, focus wind shear, show tooltip. It allows you to see the cooldown, focus hex. These two and this spirit wolf, these are actually my arena target macros, but since I have the actual buttons, activated abilities on my bars that shift all around, I make my arena target macros actually just show the tooltip of show the tooltip in order to show the cooldown of my earth and fire totems and my ghost wolf, and they're all over here. What they actually do is they just target my enemy macros, and on my Resto Shaman I actually have them to target myself as well, or target enemy or self, which is pretty helpful in that case. So the next one, Earth Elemental Totem, is the actual Earth Elemental cast. If I press it once, it summons the Elemental. If I press it again, it casts a Reinforce, which is the channeled ability on the Primal Elementalist talented Earth Ellies that reduces damage on you by 20% and increases your healing by 10%, which is pretty useful. It's just being able to have it in the same button. That's all you summon Earth Elemental for, really, while you're using Primal Elementalist as enhancement. So it's helpful. Target focus Solar Beam. This is just a Stonebulwark totem tied, or Health Stone tied to Stonebulwark totem. I only use this in random battlegrounds, or solo play. It's not. I don't use Stonebulwark totem very often. It's not that good, I don't think. This one is its effectiveness, its use can be kind of pretty complicated, and I'll get back to that later. This is just a cast sequence for Storm Strike and Lava Lash because I'm pretty lazy, but I'll explain how it works at the end. Astral Shift with Hellstone tied to it. The arena target. Unleash Elements. I just have Start Attack attached to it, or I just make a macro that makes me auto attack while I'm unleashing elements. Because you notice, with the basic spell, it doesn't make your character attack if you use it on a player. It only Storm Strike and Lava Lash actually makes your character attack, I think. I'm not exactly sure, but that's so I just have it tied into my Unleash Elements and my Frost Shock, and also I have Earth Shock one too that does that. This is a Resto Macro. This is just to destroy the Tremor Totem in case I'm using Totemic Restoration talent, which I don't really use as enhancement. And it bugs out a lot too. It doesn't even it doesn't even shorten the cooldown all the time. I'm not sure exactly why. I guess I don't know if it's a bug or if it's intended not to work in arenas or something, but it seems to not work a lot of the times. I'll have to see though. This is Resto Macro for Healing Surge or Greater Healing Wave. Food Macro, Mount Macro, Random Cast. It doesn't work for me though for some reason. I'll have to see that later. And this is this is my Healing Surge macro. I just have it on Earth Shock because it's here. Helps me know. Actually, I have to show tool tip Earth Shock. Yeah, so this is the Healing Surge macro. That just this part it allows me to mouse over heals on others. That's I use it in battlegrounds mostly because I have other macros that target my allies in arenas. It can, but this is really helpful to have in case you're doing like fives, or in case I'm doing fives, or I forget to set a healing macro before arena games start. You can mouse over a portrait as well, and it'll cast over them. I also have it for cleanse spirit, and it's just a basic mouse over macro that it'll target you. It'll target yourself if you're targeting an enemy, or it'll target your target if you're targeting someone else. For either of these macros. On the next page, just a focus purge. This is Ascendance macro. I'll get to that later. It's pretty complicated. Frost Shock skinned as Earth Shock, just because the Frost Shock and the Earth Shocks that I have on my 2 different action bars just helps me kind of keep track a little bit of what action bar I'm on, in case I do mess up my action bars. In case I'm on the wrong action bar, I'm trying to use an ability, I can look down and see, well, is my Frost Shock or my Earth Shock up, just to tell me which action bar I'm actually at, okay, and to see if that was what was screwing me up. But I've kind of worked through it so that it doesn't mess me up really as often now, or at all. This is the Frost Shock start attack. This is just a solar beam or Searing Totem skinned to solar beam. My elemental mastery macro. These are the weapon imbue macros that will automatically imbue your offhand with Frostbrand or Rockbiter. I don't have one for Flame Tongue for whatever reason. This one will automatically cast Wind Fury on your main hand. You just copy paste those or pause it and write them down. This is the Cleanse Spirit one, and these are just my allies for 3v3 arenas or 2v2. My ally Healing Surges and Cleanse Spirit, just so I don't have to target them. It's on my section. I put them on my second action bar. The multiple action bars is really helpful for especially this. This is the primary reason, one of the primary reasons why I actually do this 2 action bar scheme, because I can just shift to an action bar where I don't have to switch targets or anything, and I can press a button and it'll automatically heal one of my 3v3 allies or decurse them. Number 2 is to heal my healer, and shift 2 is to decurse him. 3 is to heal my DPS barter, and shift 3 is to decurse him. So it's pretty simple. It makes it a lot easier to heal off-heal targets or off-heal allies in arenas, especially for ret. It's really helpful to. I think it would be really helpful to have another action bar like this. I was actually thinking of making a ret, but I didn't want to spend time on yet another character. So I'm gonna go back to my cast sequence Stormstrike. I have a Stormstrike Lava Lash. So I'm pretty lazy. I have both Stormstrike and Lava Lash on the same button with a cast sequence in it. But there's a few reasons why I do this. One, the biggest reason is I've always hated Stormstrike and Lava Lash kind of mechanic, just having 2 attacks that do the exact same thing, just straight up DP damage. And so I've always, ever since I made this character in season 8, I've always done this. I think Flex, the big enhancement shaman back in Wrath of the Lich King, who global people in Beastcleave, I think he did this macro, this cast sequence macro. I think I must have gotten it from him, but I've just kept doing it, and it works pretty well right now. I have the reset on 6.5 seconds because sometimes it does bug out. Sometimes, well, it's partly because I want Stormstrike. Stormstrike is the vast majority, or the biggest chunk of your damage. Your Stormstrike and your Stormblast account for, I think, 25% of your total damage in any situation. So you want to be casting Stormstrike all the time, as often as you can. That's your primary damage dealer. Lava Lash's damage, especially now that gear is low, and since I don't stack mastery, but even if you did stack mastery, Lava Lash still wouldn't be doing as much damage as Ascendance nearly, or as Stormstrike nearly. So I actually have the reset set 6.5 seconds, which is shorter than the Stormstrike cooldown, because sometimes it does bug out. It'll lock out both of your abilities until the reset ticks through. Normally it should reset after Lava Lash is used, and then it'll go back to Storm Strike. But sometimes I don't really know why it bugs out sometimes. I think Blizzard must have put in some kind of safety so that people don't just put all their abilities in one keybind, because sometimes it just locks out when it shouldn't. But the 6.5 reset, it fixes that pretty much. Though it will lock out your Lava Lash if you don't Storm Strike. If you don't Storm Strike in less than 6.5 seconds after you do the first one. The way it works is that it resets 6.5 seconds after your last action with the cast sequence, within the cast sequence. So if you Storm Strike and then wait 6.5 seconds, it's going to lock out. It's not going to go to Lava Lash. It's going to go back to Storm Strike, but it'll still be on cooldown, which is fine, really, just because, and it's kind of a trade-off, but I think it helps more than it hurts, just because you want to be. It makes it so much quicker to be able to get out. It makes getting off the abilities so much easier and quicker. You're able to just use them on the same button without having to pay that much attention to whether or not they're actually off cooldown, which is a real pain in the ass, which I really hated. Like two just basic melee attacks that are both on long cooldowns, 8 seconds and 10 seconds, but not long enough that you can forget about them. So it really helps me. It really helps with actually using them on cooldown, and it frees up your attention to watch all of your other cooldowns that you have, your 25 other cooldowns that you need to keep track of in PvP as enhancement. So I do that, but the another trade-off or another weakness of it, or a bug of it, not a bug, but what it does is it messes up your ascendance. It can mess up your ascendance, because when you ascend, your Storm Strike changes into Storm Blast, and in this cast sequence, it won't recognize the Storm Strike being cast, so it'll never go to your Lava Lash. But it'll still cast a Storm Blast. If you press this right after you ascend, it'll cast the Storm Blast, because Storm Strike just gets translated into Storm Blast, but not the other way around. So it'll lock out your Lava Lash. It'll never go to your Lava Lash because it never reads that Storm Strike is being used. So then what you have to do is, in your Ascendance macro, what I have to do, and if you want to use this, in my Ascendance macro, I have another cast sequence that'll cast Storm Blast since the cooldown's reset. Since the cooldown on Storm Strike is reset and changes to Storm Blast right when you Ascendance, it'll be up right away. So I have a cast sequence that casts Storm Blast, and then it'll cast Lava Lash. So then I use my Ascendance button to actually cast Lava Lash while I'm in Ascendance and shortly after. So I don't just let it stay bugged out with this macro. And then after the first cooldown of 6.5 seconds after, as long as you're not kind of mashing the attack button, 6.5 seconds after you use the Storm Blast, at most 6.5 seconds after. It usually should be shorter than that. But after you use the Ascendance, once your Storm Blast comes up a second time while in Ascendance, this macro should work. I'll see if I can do it. Okay, Storm Strike, Storm Ascendance, and Storm Blasted. Now you can see it's going to cool down. I can Lava Lash with the Ascendance button. I just use the Ascendance button to Lava Lash there. And then I kill that guy with the Storm Blast with my normal attack button. But now my Lava Lash is bugged out, so I have to go back to the Ascendance button and use it. But now it'll be fixed. Storm Strike, then what? Lava Lash. And then it's all set. So that's how those work. And the rest of the stuff is just Blood Fury, my Trinket, and Elemental Mastery if I'm spec'd into it. So that's that. These two really help a lot, I think, or helped me a lot. I think I did have them separate for a little while, and it's just a pain in the ass. It makes the experience so much more enjoyable, so much more. I don't know. It's the ease, the comfort that it creates. Though there are corrections that you have to make, you do have to make these other mental corrections. But it frees up a keybind, frees up your lava and an extra keybind for lava lash that you can use that you would otherwise have to use a really accessible keybind for, like 4 or 1, and you could free that up for another ability that you really want an accessible keybind for. So that's why I like it for the mostly. And that's how I do my macros. So the next videos I'll be my rotation, and since I've been getting a lot of requests for that, and yeah, Enhance's rotation it's a magnificent dance. It's like a ballet, you know, yeah. It's a lot of reactive stuff. It's a lot of patterns, or it's a lot of pure kind of rotation stuff. But a lot of it's dependent on your situation, what your opponents do, of course. Especially with purges and working in all your other totems and all your other abilities into it. So I'll probably do that in the PvP context and not just sit here. But I'll see. I'll see if I can get someone to help me out with it. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys found it helpful, enjoyed it, and till next time. Later.